Taiwan. I'm Brossard with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. When Taiwan heads to the polls next month, voters will be picking not just a new president, but also a new set of lawmakers. And for the first time, a transgender person could win a seat in the legislature. Rick Lowert reports.
As a transgender woman, Abigail Wu has faced challenges in her family life, at school and in workplaces because of her gender identity. But she says this has only made her more determined to fight for equality for her community. And now she is going into politics.
如果你把自己也当成弱势，那你就会是永远的弱势。反而是我就是个跨性别者，那我来参选就这样，那就so what。
Wu is running as a legislator at large for Taiwan's Green Party. If her party gets enough votes in January's national elections, she will become the first openly transgender lawmaker in the country's history. Taiwan has a reputation of one of the most LGBTQ-friendly places in the region. This was the first country in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage. Taiwan has Asia's only transgender minister, Digital Minister Audrey Tang, but LGBTQ+, particularly transgender, representation in the legislature is still lacking. Transgender people like Wu often face discrimination and stigma in Taiwan. They are more likely to suffer mental health problems than the rest of society.
是让这个社群看到说，我们有人在立法院里面。那如果当他们今天不管是比如说他们在外面遇到问题，或是遇到学校的问题，他们可以跟就是欺负他们的人说，我们有朋友在立法院，你不要乱来。
Wu says it was a difficult decision to run for office and put herself in the public eye. She's running for a small political party and will face an uphill battle in her bid for a legislative seat, but remains determined.
我们国家讲的就是多元嘛，那你为什么不让立法院也变多元？
For Wu, the message is simple. The transgender people exist in Taiwan and they deserve their place in the country's halls of power. Chris Ma and Rick Lowert for TaiwanPlus.
Chipmaking giant TSMC has agreed to work with local U.S. unions, a breakthrough after months of labor disputes. In a joint statement, TSMC and a coalition of Arizona-based unions said they'll now meet regularly to discuss safety and workforce development. TSMC has also said it'll prioritize hiring locally, addressing concerns Taiwanese engineers could take U.S. jobs. Labor issues have already delayed the chip firm's $40 billion site in North Phoenix by a year. Global chip manufacturing is quickly expanding, with Taiwan's TSMC set to build its first European factory in Germany. To brace for the big demand for talent, local educators are sparing no time getting students up to speed. Joyce Tsung has more.
Learning from the best. That's what German engineering student Niklas Weber says he's most excited about. He's been selected to study abroad in Taiwan next year for a special program all about chips.
Taiwan is the leader of semiconductor production. So it's like, obviously, if you'd like to go to a place to learn about it, Taiwan is the place to go. For me, mostly the motivation comes from the automation.
Nicholas is one of 30 students going to Taiwan next March. They're getting a full-ride scholarship plus a roughly $750 monthly stipend, paid for by the Saxony state government. The aim, to prepare the area's next generation of tech leaders.
Then they will, let's say, be part of the university education program until June in the next year, and after that they will move for 8 weeks to TSMC for practical training.
Taiwan's TSMC leads the global chips industry as the maker of almost all of the world's most advanced semiconductors, the tiny silicon pieces that power everything electronic. They've been expanding their business overseas. The latest, a $10.8 billion joint venture for a plant in eastern Germany. But while some German students are eager to learn from the leading chip maker, some Taiwanese students hope their home country can learn from Europe, particularly from their approach to work.
很多博士生他们差不多5点就准时就走了，不会像台湾，如果你可能去台湾实验室，可能很多硕博士生就是5点后还在那边做研究。我觉得从这一点可以稍微看得出来，德国人非常重视自己的生活。
Concerns are mounting over whether TSMC will be able to fill its new sites in the West. It's already butted heads with U.S. labor unions in Arizona over different working styles, a culture gap that will also be tested in Germany. Getting a taste of TSMC's way of doing things in the training phase could help ease this transition. And with the pressure of attracting thousands of local workers, TSMC may also be taking notes from students like Nicholas. Delphine Chen and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
Leaders from the EU and China are holding talks to address deep divisions over trade and the war in Ukraine. The summit in Beijing is the first of its kind in 4 years and comes at a time of increased tension. The EU is accusing Chinese firms of helping Russia evade Western sanctions, while China wants the EU to end an investigation into Chinese subsidies for electric cars. The talks also come a day after EU member Italy said it'll pull out of China's flagship Belt and Road Trade Initiative. EU officials told Reuters news agency they don't expect the summit to produce any concrete outcomes. For more, our reporter Stash Butler spoke to EU-China scholar Zsuzsa Anaferenci.
If we're going into this summit already expecting that nothing, concrete is going to come out of it, why hold a summit at all?
It is important to hold a summit and to keep channels of communication open in order to keep trying to get the message across. Whether the message gets across does not really depend on China as much as it depends on us and how consistent we are with our messaging. It's really thanks to China, to a great extent, that we are able to move closer together because we are frustrated on the European side with how little China has done to address our grievances.
Do you think that the EU has understood China's concerns?
That's a good question. What are China's concerns? Because what we've seen coming out of China is a very assertive approach. I fail to see how the two sides can actually converge having such different language and such different expectations from each other. So I believe that the European side has been trying to adjust and recalibrate its approach. I fail to see how China is rethinking its approach towards Europe. And I completely fail to see how China has understood how important the Ukraine issue is for Europeans. So not only does China not play a constructive role in that sense, but China has been refusing to even talk about it.
You mentioned how Ukraine is one of, obviously, the major grievances the EU has in this relationship. How big of a role will Taiwan play in these talks?
Taiwan remains a difficult issue to discuss with China because China refuses any dialogue on issues that it considers of core national interest. Given how different the two positions are, I don't expect Taiwan to really be prominent on the agenda, but I do expect for the European side to maintain that position that Taiwan is important, that strategically speaking, the EU needs to take into consideration the impact of tension growing in the Indo-Pacific.
That was Zsuzsa Anaferenci from National Donghua University speaking to Stash Butler. Glittery white snow has blanketed subtropical Taiwan's second highest peak for the first time this winter. On Wednesday night, up to 10 centimeters fell on the aptly named Snow Mountain, or Xueshan in Mandarin Chinese. Temperatures in Taiwan's central mountain range dipped below freezing as a strengthening cold air mass blows in from the northeast. Hikers in the mountains are being warned to take extra precautions to stay warm. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with this footage of Christmas decorations in Copenhagen's Tivoli Gardens. I'm Philip Brossard. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
For more news from Taiwan and around the world, go to TaiwanPlus.com and download the TaiwanPlus app.